that I can give you for survive in this pandemic are still staying at home and doing your hobbies. By doing so, it can decrease your stress due to the quarantine.
So during the pandemic time, many places were forced to close, even the schools and the companies, and people began to study or work online at home. And during this period, what I can do is to attend the online classes and play the games at home, but can't go anywhere.
I've actually learned how to do a lot of things during the pandemic since I'm at home most of the time. So an example of this might be the use of Adobe Premiere Pro, which I've actually picked up where I actually have to work from home. So I actually have to learn a little bit more hard skills, soft skills, for example, so that I'm better able to contribute to my company in the process, as well as stock trading, for example. Yeah, all of those were learned during the pandemic. As a very social person myself, I prefer to spend most of my time out of my house. So during the pandemic, I'm actually not able to go out of my house, so I actually spend a lot of time playing video games with my friends, such as Mobile Legends, for example, where I still can have a chat with my friends over the voice call function, example, which actually added a lot of fun into my circuit breaker, as you call it.
I think I have a quite boring life during this pandemic because mostly I spend my time doing my assignment or like attending online classes in my room. And if I have free time, I would like say that I spend my time watching some movie on Netflix or riding a bicycle with my friend or family. Before this pandemic, I do like having discussion with my friend for the project or do my assignment, as well as hanging out in coffee shop or restaurant. I think it's hard for people doing quarantine because some of them are struggling with their mental health issue. I think the best tip for them to surviving this quarantine is the first one is you have to maintain your health by consuming healthy food or like doing the healthy lifestyle by exercising once a week or twice. The second one, don't forget to maintain and look forward your mental health. Since mental breakdown.
So I think that before the pandemic, because I'm a very social person, I love going out. I would go out every single day before the pandemic. But when the pandemic struck the world, it was very different because we were socially isolated from everyone. So I was in my room most of the time, and it did affect my mental health. However, I think that some tips for survival for this period is to, go on virtual calls with your friends, like on sites like Skype, Zoom, and in general, just try to be closer with your family members because I feel like life before the pandemic was so different. Everyone was, in their own bubble, but when we get together as a family, it's like we get to know more about our family members and bond with them. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the YASA project.
We want to thank everyone for being here today. And my name is Zira.
And my name is Tim. We are from BINUS University International, and we are going to be your MCs for today. Today's opening ceremony is also going to be streamed on live on BINUS TV. So hello to anybody watching. Before we start, I would like to remind you guys of some house rules that we have here. Number 1, we will keep your microphone off during the session to avoid any unexpected noises, but we would be very happy if you could join us with your camera on. Number 2, please change your display name with the format of country of university _ name. For example, if your university is from Indonesia, it would be INA _, for example, Justin Bieber. Or if you're from Malaysia, it would be Malaysia MAS _ name. For more context, you can look in the Zoom chat. Number 3, during the presentation session, if you have any questions, please post them on the chat box so that the guest speaker can address your questions. And lastly, number 4, please remain in the Zoom room until the end of the session.
And now I would like to welcome Dr. Dia Wihardini, BINUS's Global Director, who will be joining us online. And Dr. Dia, the screen is yours.
Thank you. Can you all hear me now?
Oh.
Yes? All right. So good morning, everyone. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here with us today. And we are very pleased to welcome you all to the Youth Across Southeast Asia, or YASA Project 2021 launching. The YASA project aims to bring together a network of young generation university students from all ASEAN countries. ASEAN is, or Southeast Asia region, is a very vibrant region and is considered as the world's future economic powerhouse. We would like to support the agenda of creating ASEAN identity and maximizing the intra-region resources and collaborations that will benefit the current young generation of ASEAN. Not only that, we also aim to raise awareness of social issues in our region, as maybe our today's program can lead to better innovations to solve these issues. The YASA project first started in 2020 with only 2 institutions participated, BINUS University and the Singapore Polytechnic, with a total of 63 student participants. So thank you very much for Singapore Polytechnic for your continuous support. It was initially formed to enhance students taking Southeast Asia culture course in BINUS Business School. And we are very fortunate that our partners has supported along the way. The success of the previous event encourages us to continue the collaborations with other universities for future events. So today, for the YASA Project 2021, we are very honored and pleased to welcome our new partner institutions, the Rangsit University in Thailand, St. Louis University in the Philippines, and UCSI University in Malaysia. Along with the Singapore Polytechnic, we also welcome individual participants for this year's YASA project from the Ateneo de Manila University in the Philippines and the University Brunei Darussalam in Brunei. We are truly delighted to see that this project has attracted many participants from various backgrounds. This year, we have about 150 students from business, communications, media studies, and humanities, along with 11 lecturers as coaches participating in the project. We are hoping that the YASA projects in the future could be held even larger than today. And we also hope to see more participants from all ASEAN countries in the coming years. So thank you all, the lecturers, the coaches, speakers in this kickoff session, and everyone who involved in making this international students project happen. Have a great time, students, and I hope you can learn a lot from this project. I wish you a success, YASA Project 2021. Thank you and enjoy the program.
Thank you, Dr. Dia.
Okay, so Tim, before we start, do you want to tell us what is exactly the YASA project?
Sure. Well, the YASA project actually stands for Youth Across Southeast Asia Project, where universities from all over Southeast Asia partner in order to create an interactive international experience for everybody.
Yes, and all of which will be done virtually. You'll be teaming up with students from other countries, to address social problem from a country that each group is assigned to by using a social awareness campaign.
To understand more about the project, we would like to call our very own Miss Tatum Adiningrum from BINUS International to explain the details of the project. Miss Tatum, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Good morning for everyone. Hello from Jakarta. Before I start, would I ask all students to rename their Zoom name into institution underscore their name. So for example, BINUS Tatum Sharifah. Okay. So here is the project guide. Next, please. I would like to welcome students from 5 university partners and also to the individual participants from Ateneo and University of Brunei Darussalam. Next. Together, as a global virtual team, we are going to do this challenge. So first of all, you are all going to be put into a global virtual team from across Southeast Asia. And then you will try to do a country analysis, audience persona, choose a social issue in that country, make videos about it. And then lastly, you will do a video and make a social awareness campaign video on the issue that you have identified. Next, please. Okay. So as you know, there are already 3 phases for this challenge. All of us have been through the individual orientation phase, in which you have made the individual introductory video and you have become familiar with the project. There are gradings that already assigned for this project, so you will get 100 points overall, and here are also the breakdowns. So for the individual orientation, if you have submitted your video on time, you will get 10 points. Today, we are entering the team orientation and project launching. So the team orientation phase attendance will give you 15 points. So this is a half-day workshop for students to meet their team members. So you will meet your team members today. I have sent you email on who are your team members. So if you want to check it out, that would be great. And also take notes on your team number, right? Okay, so for today, can we go back, please? Yeah. Okay, so the output for today, hopefully you will start your team introduction video, and the team introduction video will give you 10 points. And we also will do peer evaluation 1. And then after today, you will enter the global virtual collaboration phase, in which you will be given a challenge, you will be assigned a country, and you will have 2 outputs here: video on the youth profile or your audience persona, and then a video campaign of a social issue. So for this, you will get a maximum 15 points for video 2, maximum 35 points for video 3, and then we will also do a peer evaluation. Next. Okay, just a quick guideline for video 1 that you will start to do today. The topic is, who are we? Who are you as a team? Who are we? What? And there are some guided questions you can use. The maximum duration is 5 minutes, and the submission deadline is on the 1st of December. Next. Okay, on video 2 will be submitted, the deadline is 8th of December. This is when you do a presentation style video, and the content will be about the chosen social issues, in which you will justify using country analysis, and then you will also justify the choice of your audience, what kind of audience you're targeting. There are some tools that you can use, and the maximum duration is 10 minutes. And finally, video 3 is next. Then video 3, the style is a video for public audience, and the audience you have chosen in the previous video, right? So this is the main challenge. The content is about raising awareness on chosen social issue in a target country. So if you already check your team member, the grouping sheet, you will know which country you are assigned, right? The language, there will be some language issues, I know, but to make it simple, we will use English or local language with English subtitles, and the maximum duration is 5 minutes. And the submission deadline is 14th of December. Don't be afraid, you will be assigned a coach for your team, right? The coaching session will be for today. You will get to know your coach if your coach is here during the lunch break. But at least you need to make an appointment with your coach for a meeting on between 1st or 5th December. Yeah. And then after that, if you need some more coaching for video 3, please negotiate with your coach because it's an optional session. Next. So to make it fun for you, there will be student awards, right? So we will have a best video, which is coach selection, funniest video, which is also coach selection, and favorite video, which is your voting. Okay, so that's the overall planning of the project. But what is for today? Let's see special for today. Next, please. Yeah. The first assignment is today. At 10, you will have a breakout session for getting to know your group. So check your group number and then go to the breakout room that corresponding to the group number. There you have to introduce yourself, and then your first task is to choose group representative to join parallel session. Okay, so because all group will have 4 to 5 people inside, so choose one person to do social issues and social entrepreneurship, choose one for country analysis and persona, and choose one member to attend making meaningful and interesting content, at least. If you still have other people in the group, then 2 people can attend one parallel session. So that is your first assignment at 10 o'clock today. And then for today's second assignment is that we're going to do a virtual lunch. So prepare a lunch that you can share with your team members virtually, show them what you have. And then it can start a conversation on, okay, what's a typical lunch, what's a traditional lunch kind of thing. And then during this breakout lunch break, the coach will also enter your room and introduce themselves. So you can exchange contact and plan for next meeting and start planning for video 1. Okay, so that's it. Next, please. I hope that you will have a smashing time in the project. If you need help, these are your home country contact. For BINUS, I am the home country contact. For Singapore Polytechnic is Mr. Andre Han. From UCSI is Muhammad Farizi. From Rangsit University, Ma'am Amporn. And from SLU, Ma'am Aletea. Thank you and see you in the project. I'll give it back to the MC.
Thank you so much, Ms. Tatum, for giving us the details of the project. I hope it was clear for everyone, and I hope everyone's excited now.
Since the YASA project is all about collaborating among Southeast Asian universities, it's going to be challenging, especially since it's going to be done virtually, right? However, we believe that it's going to be a rewarding experience for everybody involved.
Yes, I totally agree with that.
To know more about working in a global virtual team in Southeast Asia, we would like to call Ms. Ningram Spicer from U.S. agency Global Media. Ms. Ningram, the screen is yours.
Hello, good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank BINUS University for inviting me to speak before you. I'm honored and very humbled with this opportunity, as I always have a soft spot when it comes to opportunities to meet with students. I hope the mic is okay. There's no interruption. Okay. Yeah, so as I said, I have a soft spot when it comes to meeting students because I feel that it's my way of giving back to community. And I can share my knowledge and my personal experiences as well, based on, sorry, my screen all of a sudden, it's not working properly. Okay. Yeah, so it's where I can share my knowledge, my personal experience, for the future generations, such as students. It is unfortunate that, we're in this kind of situation because of the pandemic. We have to do everything virtually now. Otherwise, it would be nice to meet everybody in person. But as the MC mentioned, we are now in this kind of environment in the virtual world, and it definitely has changed a lot of ways in doing business, including ours. So as the MC mentioned during the introduction, I am here based in Bangkok, Thailand, on behalf of the U.S. Agency for Global Media as the Director for Office of Business Development for the Asia region. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to give a little introduction of who we are. USAGM, as I mentioned, stands for U.S. Agency for Global Media. We are a U.S. government broadcasting agency with a vital mission to share U.S. national interest to inform, engage, and connect people around the world in support of freedom and democracy. We started our first broadcast during World War II on February 1942, when an American journalist, William Harlan, initiated VOA's first radio show from Germany. And he said at the time that we bring you voices from America, and from now on, we shall speak to you about America and the war, and the news may be good, the news may be bad, but we shall tell you the truth. And that stays true till today, where we offer and provide news and information to the world based on the balanced content, non-biased, independent, and accurate information. Next slide, please. So who is USAGM? We are a network of global media agency. We comprised of 5 media organizations that complement and reinforce one another. We have Radio Free Asia, Radio Office of Cuba Network, which broadcasts predominantly in South America. We have Voice of America, which broadcasts all over the world in many different languages. We have Middle East Broadcasting Network, which targeting Middle East. Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, which markets to the European countries. And Open Technology Fund, or OTF, which is our technology hub for all of our communications capabilities. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, the differences between all of these networks' roles lies in their programming, which emphasize domestic news content for its geographical defined audience. So as for me, here in Thailand, I'm overseeing Asia, so I'm very focused with Radio Free Asia and Voice of America news content, because we provide information to targeted countries within the targeted language as well. Next slide, please. So this is the world map where you can see our global reach. Our networks bring news and information to people around the world in 62 languages. Every week, we have more than 394 million listeners, viewers, and internet users around the world turning on, tuning in, and logging on to our broadcast programs. Our networks produce more than 3,000 hours original programming every week. We work with various affiliates around the globe, such as major television networks, prominent internet portals, local AM and FM stations, and thus far we have more than 3,000 global affiliates. And through these affiliates, we offer various partnership, media development, supports, as part of our commitment to engage and strengthen our relationship with various stakeholders. For example, our TV programs for Voice of America, the programs alone reaches an estimate of over 200 million people weekly. This is particularly in significant markets such as Iran and Ukraine. And we also have our radio broadcast that reaches more than 142 million people per week, where we continue to enhance our distribution network by adding new FM transmissions in key cities in Chad and Mali. I'm gonna skip to the slide 6 if you don't mind, please. If you can play the next slide, please. Sorry, play that. Yes, play the link, please.
All around the world, people are hungry for reliable, fact-based, and accurate news. Sometimes it's buried in a flood of half-truths, misinformation, and lies. And sometimes it's blocked. But in a world where dictators and extremists control the flow of information, none of us are safe. So where can the world's citizens turn for reliable and accurate news? The United States Agency for Global Media provides independent and credible news and information every day in 58 languages to more than 100 countries and to more than 278 million people and growing. Our networks inform, engage, and connect people around the world in support of freedom and democracy. Because access to the truth is a prerequisite
Was there a link problem?
for peace. The United States Agency for Global Media. New name, same mission.
Okay, so that's a little short video of who we are. Sorry if the connection was a bit bad there, because it's a little bit stuttering for me. Okay, let's go back to the slide before that, please. I think it's slide 5. Yep, thank you so much. Apologies for that. So with this kind of global operation, how do we manage this? So as far as our agency, there are several of us, including myself, serving as the agency's business development team. We are divided into 5 regional bureaus. As you can see, these individuals are in charge of different regions. And as for me, as I mentioned earlier, I'm based in Bangkok, Thailand, and I'm overseeing our operations mainly for VOA and RFA. The reason being because those 2 networks or those 2 entities provide and offer content for the Asia market. So I'm covering all countries between India to Fiji and also between Mongolia to New Zealand. So all of the Asia region. And what do we do? What do I do here? Basically, I'm representing our agency for all aspects to expand our business, our partnership, our marketing efforts in this region. We work with news organizations, NGOs, government entities, universities, and many more. Now, also, although I'm based in Thailand, I also have to connect with all of my counterparts from the Eurasian region because, for example, in the Mongolian market, we have some content that may mingled with the Radio Free Europe content because of the targeted language there. In Mongolia, a lot of people speak English and also Russian. So we have those content, and sometimes I have to coordinate with my colleagues from the Eurasian region for these matters. So let's go to next slide. I think it's slide 7. I'm sorry, it's a jump. Yeah, thank you. So with this kind of global environment, we definitely run into various challenges. And I discovered that here in the region, although my personal background, I was born and raised and educated in Indonesia. I spent so many years in the US as well. And when I came back to Asia, it's a different environment than when I was growing up. So in my team, I have 9 team members throughout the region. They're reporting to me. They are serving what we call it as a country representative. As many of you may know, all Asian countries are not the same. They have their own uniqueness and niche that kind of complements each other. So here are some of the challenges that we discovered, particularly in the recent years. The first one is the cultural background. As I said, even though we're all Asian countries, we may have the same norms, the same interest, but there are some things that are different. And what do we do about it? We try to understand and respect that variety of cultural background, learn the uniqueness, learn the do's and the don'ts. Sometimes the things that work in one country doesn't mean that it will work on others. And for us, since our core product is news and information, we need to understand how people consume information, their behavior towards the information when they get that. Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Their behaviors when they get that information. How do they react to it? We also need to understand the technology capabilities of each country. I can say, for example, in Thailand, it's very different than it is in China, for example. So especially today, we have to understand how we can deliver those information to the people. So we need to be aware of that. We also need to be aware of the people's savviness because our customers are the people. So when we provide all of this information, when we understand how they behave towards our product and the technologies that they have, we need to know, can people actually get this? Will this be something that's easy for people to navigate? We learned that there are some gaps here and there in Asia region where we have to provide more support to the people and help them to go through it so that we can accomplish our mission. So once we acknowledge all of these challenges, then we can strategize and create a comprehensive plans and move forward in order to accomplish it. The next one is also the understanding the diversity of political interest. ASEAN is a very important region for US national interest. However, as a media organization, we are an independent organization from US government intervention. We have what it's called a firewall, which prohibits interference from any government official and to safeguard our journalists from doing their journalistic job. So everyone is free of political interference. This may not be the case in other countries, particularly in this region. In my position, I often have to negotiate and collaborate with other government so that we can execute our mission in the region. Oftentimes, it can be very challenging, and I experienced that recently with Myanmar, as many of you may have known, and we lost a lot of our broadcasts in the country as an impact of the new regulation by the current government. So all of this, we have to navigate that, and for people to understand what is our core mission, because even though we are an independent organization without political interference from the US government, we also have a mission that we are supporting, as I mentioned earlier, to inform and to connect people around the world in support of freedom and democracy. Those are our core value on what we do, why we do what we do. And of course, for the past couple of years, the pandemic changed a lot of things. It has changed the way we do business. Prior to pandemic, we do a lot of face-to-face meetings. Now we have to do everything virtually, just like this. And I remember when I first started my position and moved to Thailand, I traveled in the region all the time, almost every day, meet with people, go see I went to see the market. I went to see how people actually consume information on the street, because that's where we want our product to be. So now, unfortunately, I'm unable to see that because of all the travel restrictions that we have. However, it's everybody. It's not just us. However, I do see that the media industry all over the world, not just in this region, are also suffering from the same thing. The inability to get the story firsthand because of the travel restrictions, the economic impact to their business because people are not getting their revenue as much as they used to. So all of that definitely impacted the way things move forward. We have seen some of the smaller scale media organization could not survive during this time because they don't have enough resources, they don't have financial gain, and they don't have the good stories that they used to deliver. So what do? Here, we try to find new opportunities, and we have gained a little bit of new businesses, new approaches that we offer to many of our clients. So next, please. Now, in recent years, we have identified many social issues, and I'm pretty sure many of you are aware of the common social issues in this region. However, I would like to identify the ones that are impacting our business. The first one that we're seeing rising as a rising concern in this region is threat to the freedom of press. We're seeing more of this trend within the past couple of years. In some countries, since the pandemic occurred, we're seeing government across the region using health crisis to restrict the flow of information. They want some form of government approved information for their people to control the chaos or the fear, which is understandably reasonable. However, from that, we're also seeing that there are more and more cases where press freedom becomes stifled, and it's not COVID related. For example, what we're seeing in Hong Kong, what we're seeing in the Philippines, and also in Myanmar. So that becomes a major issue for us because we want to provide that to the people. So we have tried to find new ways and new opportunities to continue delivering news and information to the people in those restricted areas so that they can gain some accurate information. Even though, for example, like COVID related, we want people to be aware of what it is, get the accurate information, and fight the disinformation that has been going on for quite some time nowadays. Another issue that we discover is the education inequality, which is actually a global problem. It's not only in this region, despite of the government's efforts and support to overcome this. When we talk about working globally and regionally, we need to equip people with some standardized qualities. This happens in the US as well. Racial discrimination has impacted education inequality for generations. And during the previous administration, for example, President Trump tried to revamp a lot of the educational policy and which made it challenging for common people to obtain good education. In Asia, what we're seeing, it's also driven by the economic ability. This is also an impact of income gap and poverty. And again, it's a worldwide problems, which actually lead to access of information as well. People do not get the information that they need, where they can be equipped to go to the workforce and compete with the others, especially where the world becomes seems smaller nowadays. We have to work regionally, we have to work with other people from other parts of the world. We need people to be valuable, to be marketable, so that they can excuse me, so that they can compete with the others as well. And that's why it's for us, we try to find we discover opportunities where we can produce some programming to educate people. For example, we have Learning English program where we provide to many of our counterparts, and it's a very popular program. We also provide content about science and technology, what is the latest, and we also provide information about college, because we have seen the declining numbers of people going abroad to study. So it's either it's economic driven or is it informational driven? We still don't know, but we are providing those information. So we want to continue inviting people to study overseas, particularly in the US. Environmental issues, climate change, I think we all have heard this more and more in recent years. It's a threat to the entire world, and we are doing our best to overcome it, not only from our own action, but we are also trying to provide some trainings for our journalists, our affiliates, to understand and create that awareness. How can we educate people? Again, different countries, different region have different ways of doing things. The challenges in the environmental issues also varies. So this year, that will be our main one of our main projects that we want to do throughout the world, because we are supporting the U.S. foreign policy, where recently the President Biden has agreed that that U.S. will be committed in fighting the environmental issues, where we're going to support to do things better for the sake of our Earth, and overcome the climate change issue. So next slide, please. So what do? We may not be able to solve all the problems, but we're willing to contribute to some of the solutions. As I mentioned many times earlier, we try to discover new opportunities. As I said, we produce new content, new programs. We see that many of our clients are hungry for this kind of content. We provide trainings. And we also collaborate with our stakeholders, focusing on capacity building, particularly for our media affiliates. And that's it's an enticing component of becoming of our affiliates, because we provide workshop for them based on their needs, something from providing basic journalism best practices to business management, newsroom management, sales and marketing, online safety, many more. So having that collaboration, we can not only working for our interests, but we are also working to help the others that work for us, that collaborate for us. Next slide. Oh, I think this is the last slide. Okay, so how do we prepare for the future, all of us? How can you prepare yourself going to the workforce that possibly require you to work with others in the region or even globally? The first thing is open your mind. Come with a willingness to learn, to adapt, and understand different perspective and point of views. Sometimes you have to deal with people from different cultures. One example that I can give is that Americans tend to be known as a straightforward and very direct, whereas in Thailand or in other Asian countries, that's not the norm. So we, as an agency, need to learn it, to adapt to it, because we cannot proceed with the way of business with the direct, straightforward approach like many of the Americans would do, or the norms in the US, because it can be perceived as something that's too aggressive. And then the next one is try to find your niche. It's good. Sometimes it's good if you can be the jack of all trades. You can do many different things, but you also need to be careful, because you do not want to be the master of none. You want to find your own uniqueness, your own specialty, so that you can be value and have something to offer to the table. And let that, for example, me, I'm in an agency where it used to be predominantly male, male in the leadership role in particularly. However, in recent years, I would say probably in the past 2-3 years, we have shifted our mindset to invite more women leaders in our agency. So now we have approximately 50% of women sitting in the leadership role in our agency. And when I came on board, and I bid for position in Asia, is because I do have something to offer that's unique compared to others. I'm from Asia. I know the culture. I understand the nuances. I speak one of the languages here. So, even though I can do a lot of things from my background as a journalist and communication expert, but there is something that I can offer to the table that is valuable for my agency. And the last thing is be flexible. We are in the world that keeps changing. It's inevitable. So even iPhone comes with its new version probably every year. So we need to be adaptable. We need to be flexible with all of these changes. Willingness to learn is very important. And open yourself to something new. And from that point, you will understand why things work the way it is. And from there, you can find new opportunities and overcome all of these challenges that may appear in your future career. I think that's all from me, and I'll hand it over to the MC. Thank you so much again for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Bu Ningrum. For the very valuable tips for our students. I think it's very interesting that you have pointed out some new social issues that the students can take for their own project. And I think it's valuable for students to try to adopt these new issues that comes in ASEAN during pandemic, as been pointed out. How do you relate this to the SDG? Because SDG attainment in Southeast Asia, because the students need to relate their choices to the SDG as already mentioned in their project guideline in their MS teams. Maybe you can make a little bit more elaboration so they can have a direct relations to that.
So I think, when, I'm sorry, can you repeat? It was kind of breaking a little bit.
Okay, so you've mentioned some new issues, right, that come during the pandemic. So about the environment, the education inequality, and then freedom of expression or freedom of press. Can you relate this more directly to the SDG, Sustainable Development Goals attainment in Southeast Asia? Because later on the students need to make that direct relations. Maybe you can give them some more tips and relational relationship between what you already mentioned and what the global attainment of the SDG.
Okay. Yeah. So as you pointed out, SDG has guidelines for the social issues that the world is basically suffering from, and the goals that we want to go to. So as I mentioned, we discover some of those issues and we do pay attention to it. Now, how do you connect those? I think creating that, having that awareness of your surroundings, I think it's very important. Of course, you have to read a lot. And, as for us, we identify all of these issues on a regional base. And we try to align with the U.S. national interest. Each region has different issues, and we cannot, our agency in the US, there are so many different government agencies. And as for us, we cannot intervene too in-depth on particular programs or particular issues. For example, I did mention like the education, it's part of the SDG goal where, we want to increase the quality of education. As a media organization, we can only provide certain things. So we can provide a content programs where we can help, for example, in the learning English, right? We want to gain that, provide that to our audience. However, when it comes to providing more details of the educational aspect of it, we have our colleagues from the Department of Education working on that. So each agencies have its own responsibilities and own goals, how they can support the SDG, and all of us as part of the U.S. government, we try to complement each other based on each of our mission. I hope that answered questions.
So very important for the students is because they are going to be put into a global virtual team that they will meet for the first time in this project. And you already have so many experience on managing global team from different background, cultural background. Maybe perhaps you can give a tips on conflict management, and also what do you think they will need to watch out for their own global collaboration, taking into account that they're meeting for the first time in this project?
Thank you. I'm hearing some background noise. Yeah, thank you. For me, the conflict management is lots of coffee. Well, I think in all aspect of working relationship with whoever and wherever you are, yes, there will always be conflict. My approach has always been not to react immediately. I remember, when you need to understand why people have different perspective from us, right? So, for me, I always take time to not immediately react, and really understanding the background, why this person said this or do that, or why is this way of our negotiation. And this happened to me many times, to be honest, when I have to negotiate with government officials. They would say something that's or do something that's a little bit off, in my opinion. And it's not solely my opinion. It could be because in my head I have this mission that I have to move forward with, and it's different than what we want to do. So when I took the time to just not to immediately react, and then try to understand, okay, why, for example, in Myanmar, I can give you an example. Why is it so difficult to get people to be savvy, with technology, and why can't I just tell them, all you need to do is just use your apps and then you can get our information. The problem is not on them. Oftentimes the problem is because that's part of the cultural background that they have. It's like the information and the lack of resources that they have make them unable to understand how to do things. They don't know what VPN is, and so when we acknowledge those, then we find a solution to that problem, and we did. We provided them with technology supports so that people can get those information very easily. I also work with 9 team members from different backgrounds, all of them different backgrounds. Sometimes one can be too aggressive, the other one can be too laid back, and I'm the kind of person that says, we have a goal. This is what we need to accomplish. And, I think encouraging them instead of putting them down, I think that helps with the morale for them to do something. And I always make my team members to have some ownership to their project, so that they feel responsible. So it's not just me trying to drag them to finish the work, but it's like, this is your project, take ownership to that, and continue to boost that morale for them.
Okay, fantastic. So ownership to the project and respect for others as well. So don't kill ideas, try to encourage other people to share. Thank you very much for joining us today, Bu Ningrum. And I think it's a excellent start for everybody to have some awareness of what can be happening inside a global virtual team. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see you again sometimes.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, and then I'll return to MC.
Thank you again, Ms. Ningrum, for sharing us your experience and also giving us a big picture on what is it like to be working in a virtual team, global virtual team.
Now we are going to start by introducing your groups. Here are the instructions. So for the breakout rooms, please check your group number in the link given in the chat room, or it's also sent to your email. Secondly, would be to choose the breakout room number in the which is the same as your group number. Next is also to introduce yourself and to get to know each other. Lastly is that you should choose group representatives to attend the parallel sessions. At least one group member is to attend one parallel session. As you can see, there's a list. Social issues in Southeast Asia should be one member or more, or country analysis and audience persona should be one member or more. And lastly, making meaningful and interesting content should be one member or more. The breakout rooms will be open now.
For all coaches can join the breakout room that is called Coach, and then we can talk together in that breaking room. Okay. For coaches, could you please stay in the main room?
You mean this one, right? You mean this one, right? Main room, hello. This is Sampon speaking.
Yeah.
So you mean that this room, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. Confusing a bit. to find which room I should join.
Yeah. There should be a dedicated room for coach, but we missed that one room. Okay, let's wait until all the students go into their breakout room, and then we can start our own briefing.
Hello. Hello, hello.
share the screen? Okay. Thank you for all coaches. Welcome for all coaches. Finally, all the students have been in their breakout room. So how are you, everybody? We meet again.
So far, so good.
So
Thank
far,
you.
so good. That's very
Thank you.
good.
The last one just moved ya, to room 23. That's
Okay.
Thank
Thank you. What about Sin Wang and Sha Wenki? Oh, there's some new student.
Okay, so let me handle that again. Okay, just
Yeah, thank you. So I think we will use this opportunity while students are still in their breakout room on, you know, if you still have any questions or uncertainty. Oh, I would like to welcome Miss Aletia Paludipan, our coach from San Luis University, Philippines. Hello. Okay, so we got SLU as our last partner for 2021. So in total, we have 151 students, and that's quite a number to manage. And I think all of us coaches have already got access to our groups, so we know which group we are coaching, which group, which country that we are assigned for the group, and as well the member of the group, how many people in there, etc. So after today, we are going to enter the global collaboration phase, and the responsibility of the coach will be in there to make sure that the students understand their challenge, especially for video too, because that is the basic for them to determine their last video. So today, hopefully all of us can go around to our group, so 3 groups for each, and then you can go around at lunchtime to each group and just introduce yourself and give your contact, maybe your email, and maybe also how do you want to manage the interaction, whether you want to use Zoom or you want MS Team, and if your group, if your group wants to use the MS Team, and you can ask us to create a separate MS Team for your group. It might be confusing for the students, maybe, but as long as you can guide them that this is a special MS Team for your group only, and by having a dedicated MS Team, you can use that for video conferencing meetings, that will be okay. But please tell me if you would like to arrange a separate MS Team for your group.
I'm here as well.
Tatum.
Yep.
This means that, okay, if I would like to see my groups for separate meeting with them, I got to inform BINUS, right, to set the Microsoft Teams for us, or I cannot arrange it by myself.
I think you can actually using your own institution MS Team. That will be okay too. Or if you prefer to do it by
my
Zoom.
point is that because from the name list shown here to break out for the breakout room here, no address provided, so it's hard for us to contact the students of our group.
Later in the last time, I will give you the access so you can go to each group. So like hopping between groups. as a co-host, you can do that, and you can visit different groups during the lunchtime, and then you can discuss with them. If you have a Zoom access and you want to use Zoom, that's okay too. If you want us to arrange a separate MS team for only your group, that's okay too. Oh, Farizi, what about the rubrics?
I think we can use this the yours one. Yeah, I think when I go through it, it should be fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's good enough for from the expert of communication. Then we will use that. Okay. So I will send everything again in one email, so everyone got the groupings, the rubrics that we can use for grading video 2 and 3. What else do you need as a resources? Guideline to the coach guideline? Perhaps? Yes, Andre, you want to say something?
I also noticed that the student emails are not provided. So if you want to set up Zoom links, then you would need the emails, right?
Sorry, say again?
The email addresses of the students are not given. So if they are given, then they will be easier for us to set up Zoom meetings or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Agree.
Oh, okay. You need.
Would it be possible? Would it be possible to give a list of? I mean, you have a list of the student names already. So could you include the emails as well?
Yeah, sure. Okay, I will give the whole Excel file so you get all the details from about the students.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Then you relieve you guys from a lot of administrative stuff. Then we can go ahead and do whatever we need to.
Okay, thank you.
Will you be sending that through email, Butatu, or via?
Yeah, I think so.
Will you just upload it in MS Team?
I don't want to give those kind of detail to students.
Yep.
So better if we can keep it in ourselves. I was initially trying to open another MS team for only the coach, but I just think that it's too many groups for us.
Do I have to add a group now?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We're supposed to have one more guy, actually.
So is everything okay? You don't have any more questions or doubt or something like that?
Tatum, sorry. Do we also need to check the team introductory video, or just the personal, like the profile and also the awareness?
Sorry, say again, Bu Kezia?
Do we also need to check the team introductory video?
Not necessarily, because if they submit, they automatically get a 10 point.
Okay.
But if you would like to know who are in your group, you want to check it out first, then you're welcome to look at the videos in the MS team.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh yeah, today we will also do peer evaluation 1. So I used an application that is called Teammates. We're going to give the link through email. So everybody will get an email with the link to do the peer evaluation. The peer evaluation session will open today at 1 p.m. and it will close tomorrow at 11 p.m. Yeah. So this will determine their peer evaluation or peer review grade component. Yeah, I'm using Bangkok Jakarta time. So please,
24/7, right?
Yeah. So please adjust it to your own time zone.
Any idea on where you're going? Like US or
So what is the general feeling of your students? Are they excited or anxious or?
I have a friend that told me about this.
Andre is smiling.
You guys like stay there for
Yes.
only 2 weeks. And then you get the bonus.
They text me morning, early morning.
Oh, they must be really excited.
The video from USA I really enjoy. I scroll like about 10 or 15 of them, and then they're really good. You know, they're really presenting themselves quite well.
So yeah, at some point I did consider HR as well. But then I realized I'm not really good at handling.
Dr. Fimala, are you okay? Like everything's clear?
I'm a bit confused, but nevertheless, I'll follow through.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, how do we go into the respective breakout rooms? Are we going to be assigned?
You will be given a co-host later on, so that you can choose your own breakout rooms, and that you can go from one room to another room. Yeah, just click the room numbers and then you can join.
You just know how to talk.
Right. Earlier you were saying about the MS teams. If we want to create our own MS team, you going to organize that, or can we organize that ourselves?
Let me know what you want to do. If you want to organize it, it's fine too. Like I said before, I'm going to give you the Excel with all the email addresses. Otherwise, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the BINUS students in your group to open one.
Okay, all right, great, thank you.
Tatam, for me, I would like BINUS to organize the Microsoft Teams for me for group 22, 23, and 24, please.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Oh yes. Okay. You can just type in the chat if you can unmute. I think.
Okay, so 8 more minutes until the students come back. Let's just wait. And I think we have Bulili and also Farizi to prepare for their session after this.
Did you already take your engagement or? Oh wait, you're an exchange student, right? Oh, transfer. I see. Are you taking like double degree or like single degree?
Ibu Tatum, should I go to another room or I just stay in here?
Later, we are going to create a dedicated room for your room and also Pak Farizi's room. While in the main session, there will be Pak Aryono.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we just wait until the students coming from each of the group, right?
Yes.
At least one. All right.
Yeah.
In COM, we only have one.
So I think try to get the students to ask questions. Yeah. They're being very passive. Hopefully, inside their own group now, they are more active and ask questions, interacting. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to check them out. So I'll see you again later.
I heard from some people you actually do go outside depending on the country, but like you still have to stay there for like some people.
Hi, welcome to Rap Show. My name is Akayata Nafila and I will be your host for today. In this show, we will be discussing about the social issue that is related to corruption in Indonesia that will be brought by our guests from BINUS University, Amadea, and Petrus. And the second topic that we will be discussing is about the education opportunities in Singapore that will be brought by our guests also, which is Rex and Audrey. from Singapore Polytechnic. And the third topic that we will be discussing is about the education opportunities in Indonesia that I will bring.
So in Indonesia, corruption is already becoming a very common issue. There are almost new big news about corruption every year here in Indonesia. For example, the ektp corruption that happened from 2015 until 2017, which cost the country for about 150 million US dollars. And recently, in 2019, there is also a new big corruption case that involves the government's insurance company called PT Jiwasraya, which cost the country for about 1.5 billion US dollars. Not only that, in daily life, corruption is also becoming a habit in Indonesia. So, for example, if you got pulled off by a police here, usually the police will ask you for some money, like bribe money, so that you can get off from your problem with the police. And in comparison with Singapore, for the corruption perception index, Indonesia ranked 85, which we can call it bad for a big country, and Singapore ranked 4th. So in that comparison, we can say that Indonesia is still far away from Singapore to be called as a free corruption country.
All right, so today I'm going to talk about the stigmas that a lot of people in Singapore have against students in private universities or in various secondary school streams or even in ITE, which is in the Institute of Technological Education in Singapore. So in Singapore, in secondary school, we have three main streams: the express stream, the normal academic stream, and normal technical stream. So for the express stream, it's very straightforward, 4 years, and then you go directly for your national exam and then on to the next level of education, which is either a polytechnic or a junior college. For the normal academic stream, you take 4 years, go for a national exam, and then you can choose whether to take an extra year and then go for another national exam, which allows you to go to either a polytechnic or junior college, or you can just go to this thing called Institute of Technical Education, which is ITE for short. So that's basically more of a foundation school, which teaches a lot of hands-on experience. And for the last stream, which is the normal technical stream, that's where you take 4 years in secondary school, then you go for a national exam, and after that you go into the ITE. So a lot of people sort of have these stigmas against normal academic, normal technical students, because they are viewed as not so bright compared to express students, and because they take a longer time to finish their studies. So I mean, it's quite bad, but hopefully we can resolve this situation within these years to come, because to be honest, we're all around the same. But yeah, and for IT, a lot of people view it as like it's the end, because once you go in, you're gonna spend at least another 2 or 3 years in there compared to all of your peers. But to be honest, like those 2 or 3 years, you will learn so much more. So really hoping that we can remove these stigmas that this IT or these two normal academic and normal technical students that these stigmas have against them. So hopefully, we can improve it.
In terms of educational opportunities in Indonesia, there are a lot of factors that contribute on why there are undistributed education in Indonesia. The first factor, it is because the difficulty in access on the remoting areas. The second one is the facilities that are offered in the remoting areas are not enough. The third one is the educational staff that needs to be moved from other region to the remoting areas. And the fourth one is the mindset of the parents and the children. So they do not want to continue their education after finishing middle school because they want to focus on getting a job and want to support their families. And there are data like every year 1.5 million of children cannot pursue their education, and more than 54% of the teachers have qualification standard that needs to be improved. There are stigma between private and public school. So in public school, there are 40 students per classroom, which can create a distraction between students that wants to focus on their studies. And the teachers have a one-way studies, meaning that the teachers cannot know each of the students' character. They do know about the ones that are active and smart in class, in comparison to the private school, which the teachers can understand each of the students' characteristics and give an overall report to the parents for a future progress or future studies for the students itself. And the facilities that are offered in public school, sometimes even the best public school get like floors that are broken, walls that are broken, and peeling paint. And in comparison to the private school, which they have the best facilities that they can have. And also in terms of scholarships. So in scholarships, scholarships can ease their tuition, and scholarship also can cover almost all of the tuition or a certain percentage. And scholarships can be offered by universities, high school, or private companies. And also scholarships can be find or applied through online, which is make it easier.
And that is it for our show. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoy. We will bring back more information and more entertainment to come. Stay tuned on our next rap show in the future. Bye-bye.
Hi guys, it's been a while since our last meeting.
Hi.
Hello.
So, you guys know that today is a special day. So, I brought here some questions that we need to answer.
Sure, bring it here.
Okay then, so question number 1. How do we see our generation? Well, to me, our generation is quite tech savvy and more open-minded. What do you guys think?
Yes, I totally agree, because with more access to the media and the world outside of their own environment, our generation has been gaining so much information that makes them more open-minded and outspoken about the issues these days.
I think our generation is totally unique and different from the previous one because we grew up with technology, which makes us more advanced socially and culturally as well.
And I think we are more exposed to the outside world than the older generations due to how advanced the technology has been. And we read news from all over the world through a single app or any social media, and that made us more open-minded.
So I agree with all of you that our generation is more open-minded and outspoken. However, I feel that our generation takes some things for granted, and we should still look up to our seniors such as parents or grandparents for advice, as they had to work really hard to provide for us and shelter us.
Well, interesting perspective. So, okay, moving on to the second question. What kind of opportunities are there for young people? So, to me, well, I think we have more opportunities in voicing our opinion and views.
Yeah, I agree with Dolores in this one. We have the opportunities to voice our opinion freely and show others that what we could.
And with the advancement of technology and how young people are always on their phones or laptops, right? I think they can get to learn a lot of IT skills. Yeah.
I think that we have more opportunities from learning from foreigners, as platforms such as YouTube connects people all over the globe.
Yeah, for me, I think that young people definitely have more opportunities in many aspects. As you guys mentioned, voicing our opinions is definitely one of the aspects, and we are also able to learn and connect more with the outside world.
Hello, welcome back, guys. I hope you had time to introduce yourselves to the group. And now let's move on to the parallel session. So each group should have at least one representative for each different session. So please make sure to divide each other accordingly. For the rooms, the first room will be called Country Analysis Room. It will be about country analysis and audience persona, which will be held by Ms. Delia Darmayanti from BINUS. And then the second room will be named Making Meaningful Content. It will be held by Mr. Muhammad Farizi from UCSI. And lastly, for social issues in Southeast Asia, please stay in the main room as it will be held by Mr. Ari Margion from BINUS.
Now, we would like to welcome Pa Ari to the stage to begin parallel session for the main room.
Please go to your respective breakout rooms. And for those who will be joining the social issues in Southeast Asia, please stay in the main room. Thank you.
The country analysis is very long, right?
Yes, Bu, for the country analysis to the room 1.
Oh, John.
And for Pak Farizi, he will be in the room 2.
Can you make me as a co-host again?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, right. Thank you.
Okay, sorry for the confusion. I think there was a bit unclear. So we're remaking all the breakout rooms. So only 2 rooms are open, one for the country analysis and one for the making meaningful content. So is room, okay, room are open. So there are only 2 rooms this time, one for country analysis and one for making meaningful content. So for those group members who have been assigned to those 2 sessions, please leave to the breakout room now. And for those who are joining the social issues in Southeast Asia, please stay with us here.
Tatum, can you help me to make me as a co-host again? Co-host, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, because I cannot join the room because of I'm not a co-host.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Pak Farizi should be co-host. Yeah. Okay. Already? And then Bu Lily as well. Sorry for the confusion.
Still not
as
yet.
well.
My side.
Okay.
Room and country analysis. Yeah. All right. Then
People in other breakout rooms, meaning that there are some member that is still in this room but actually need to go to the other room. Can you please go to the other breakout room immediately? Okay, so for those staying in this main room, we're going to listen to the presentation of social issues in Southeast Asia by Dr. Ari Margiono. Pak Ari, please take the session from here.
Okay, thank you very much. Just a second, I need to take my notes as well so that I can see, because it's quite small there. Okay, let's start our session this morning. Just a second, let me set up some things first. Okay, good morning everyone. Selamat pagi semua. Swadihap tukon. This morning we're going to talk about the social issues and social entrepreneurship in ASEAN countries. I've prepared a slide, and we can have a question and answer sessions after the presentation is done. And feel free to use the chat box if you want to ask questions, and if you want to turn on your camera, and if you want to talk or ask questions directly, you can do that as well. So just be casual in this session. It's not a formal presentation. It's more like conversation and discussions. So I'm happy if you have any questions and you just jump in during my presentation. And there are also a question and answer sessions at the end of this presentation. Okay, let me introduce a bit about myself first. Next slide, please. My name is Ari Margiono. I'm head of Center for Innovation, Design, and Entrepreneurship Research in BINUS University International in Jakarta, Indonesia. I'm also assistant professor in BINUS Business School Master Program. So I, based on the master programs, most of my teaching are at the master's level, but I also teach undergraduate courses, particularly entrepreneurship courses. And I have a PhD from Queensland University of Technology in Australia, researching specifically on social entrepreneurship. And I also have masters in social studies and economics from Aberystwyth University in the United Kingdom. So we're going to talk a bit about the things that I researched and some of my studies, some of my research on social entrepreneurship in Southeast Asia, particularly in two countries, in Indonesia and Thailand, because I'm currently focusing, studies on those two countries. But we can always talk about, the overview from the ASEAN region as well. Okay, next slide, please. The ASEAN economies are actually one of the most flourishing economies in the region, in the Asia Pacific region. As you can see there, the ASEAN market is quite significant there. near or close to India and China. It's bigger than European Union and bigger than the American and Japanese market. So ASEAN itself is a very strategic place for economy, for social, and for many things to happen in the next few decades. In fact, there are many important things happening in ASEAN at the moment, like the electric vehicle, ecosystem or electric vehicle value chains that is quite happening at the moment in the ASEAN region. There's also other things related to agriculture that are also big and contributing to the world economy. That ASEAN is having or is building at the moment. So ASEAN is a flourishing, is a growing region, and it's a region that contributes to the global economy significantly. Next slide, please. But in ASEAN, despite this, despite this growing tendencies in the region, in ASEAN region, there are poverty issues remaining. There are still a lot of people who are living under the poverty line. Although throughout the years, as you can see in the chart on the screen, that there is a significant decline in poverty issues in Southeast Asia region. But as you can see, there are still poverty issues. There are still people who are living under the poverty line in the ASEAN region. And for those of you who are living in Jakarta, or living in Bangkok, or living in Manila, and in other places in Southeast Asia region, you probably could see yourself that there are still poverty here, there, and everywhere. So poverty is still an issue, and there are a lot of efforts that government, social sector, and private sector do to tackle these poverty issues, but it's not enough, because we still see poverty in different places in the ASEAN region. Next. Not only poverty issues, because poverty is basically talking about people who are living under the poverty line. Not only that, what we face in ASEAN at the moment is inequality issues. As you can see there are rising inequalities in ASEAN. Inequality means that there is a significant gap between people who are rich and poor in Southeast Asia, in ASEAN countries. You can see from the graph there that Indonesia is quite a significant country where inequality is happening there, and some other country is also having inequality there. So there are issues that the government, the people, social sector, and the private sector need to tackle in dealing with these inequality issues. Inequality is going to be a problem for ASEAN, because inequality, the gap between the poor and the rich, if it's getting bigger, if the gap is getting bigger, there are a lot of consequences coming from this issue, like social unrest, for example, like many social economical issues that arises or that coming from the gap between the poor and rich. And it may also distract the stability of the region, distract the well-being of the people, and so on and so forth. So inequality is an important element that the ASEAN countries, Southeast Asian nations, need to tackle alongside the poverty things or poverty elements that I highlighted in the previous slide before. One of the ways in tackling or in handling the inequality issues in Southeast Asia region or in Southeast Asia nations is by promoting the social entrepreneurship or promoting social enterprises. Social enterprises are basically entities, basically business entities that is developed to achieve social solutions. You can set up a social enterprise, a business entity, a company, an organization that aims for a social benefit, but you're doing business activities, you're doing trading activities, you're doing, buying and selling things, you're doing trading basically, and social enterprises can become a solution because it can help people to narrow the gap in inequalities, and it can help government, it can help society to narrow the gap in inequalities, can also at the same time reduce the poverty level. Why is that? Because government has done a lot to reduce poverty. Government has done a lot to reduce inequality. Government has done, private sector has done a lot as well to reduce poverty and inequality through their business activity, through their trading activity. But there are things, there are neglected things. There are things that yet untouched by the government or by the private sector, primarily because those are difficult things like poverty in very remote area. In the Indonesian context, for example, let me give you the Indonesian context. It is very difficult to reach people in the remote islands, for example, because economy and civilization tend to be focused or tend to be growing in large islands. But there are so many islands in Indonesia, and I think the Philippines are also the same here, because you had different small islands, and it's difficult for the government, for the private sector to tackle, to take care of issues that are happening in social and economic issues that are happening in this remote islands. While government and private sector are focusing on the big island, social enterprises will be able to set up businesses that aim to cater people in the remote island, and they can use technology. They can use cutting edge technology like mobile technology, social media, cloud computing, and so on and so forth, to ensure that these people who have access to finance, these people would have access to economy development, and so on and so forth. So social enterprises can become a solution in this case to tackle poverty and to tackle inequality issues. Not only that, social enterprises can also become a solution to tackle environmental issues, social issues, and many issues that people in Southeast Asia are facing, including what Ms. Ningrum said earlier this morning about freedom of speech, freedom of information, and things like that. There's a lot of things that social enterprises will be able to handle and will be able to tackle. Next slide, please. This is an example of a social enterprise in Indonesia. It's called Amarta. It says everyone can be a hero for better Indonesia, because this particular social enterprise is using technology to link people in remote areas, particularly women who are in households in remote areas, in rural areas, to get access to finance, to be able to get loans, to be able to get money for them to develop their own businesses. So this is an example of the things that I said earlier, that social enterprises will be able to tackle inequality issues, because government and private sector has been focusing on big things, on big stuff in a country. And there are a lot of neglected stuff, neglected things like this one that can be useful to tackle poverty and inequality. Example. Let me give you an example, a video about about Amarta, about this particular social enterprise that has been operating in Indonesia for the last 5 years. I meant, sorry about that. Please play the video.
Saya Ibu Ena, umur 36, usaha saya jualan bakso. Tadinya mah bukan bakso, jualan nasi uduk. Udah dari nasi uduk, ikut saudara Uwa tuh, ikut jualan soto. Kelamaan tuh ada kerjaan, tapi gajinya kecil. Sebulan 800.000, pulangnya sebulan sekali. Udah lah nggak usah jualan, nggak usah kerja lah, kita jualan aja tuh. Udah berapa tahun tuh jualan bakso. Ketemu Amarta, kan dulu mah belum ada ya kayak pinjaman gitu. Dari situ tuh ikut Amarta. Udah kita buka cabang di Ciseeng. Ceritanya tuh kan ada pinjaman kedua. Itu saya beliin gerobak bakso. Itu buka di Ciseeng. Jualan bakso, sotomi, ayam, jualan macamnya kayak warteg gitu. Saya punya anak 8, saya bagi waktu, kalau hari Senin saya ikut Amarta, kumpulan, pulang dari Amarta, nyiapin buat jualan. Yang ke pasar, anak-anak bantuin, pulang sekolah. Dan berkat Amarta, alhamdulillah usaha saya jadi lancar. Walaupun saya jualan di pasar, saya terima gesek pakai kartu. Kalau di sini sih jauh ke bank atau ke ATM. Banyak sih yang nawarin dari yang lain juga. Cuman saya mah udah enaknya di Amarta gitu. Enaknya Amarta, kalau mau lihat buku tabungan bisa lihat dari HP. Nggak usah pakai jaminan BPKB, sertifikat kayak gitu. Kalau di Amarta cuman persyaratannya ibu hadir sama kumpul-kumpul gitu. Udah nggak ribet. Nggak punya rencana buka cabang lagi di Alam Parung.
This is an example of the use of technology, particularly mobile technology, for those people in rural areas to get access to finance, to use different systems, to connect to the mainstream systems, and to get access to funding and to get access to finance, particularly for women who tend to be neglected, because many of the financial institutions like banks, they tend to give loans to men, to the head of the family in Indonesia case, and probably in many other cases in Southeast Asia as well. But women sometimes neglected because they don't have access, because they have to apply through their husbands. Here, Amarta helped women to get access directly to finance and to ensure that every woman in rural area will be able to have a chance to set up business, to become women entrepreneurs. And I think that's a great solution in many cases or many issues in Southeast Asia, because many of women in Southeast Asia are becoming housewomen or housewives, and lack of the skills or lack of the capability to develop their own business and to develop their own enterprises. While having women to also engage in economy would benefit the society, would benefit the economy, and would benefit the region as well. So I think this is something that is great and needs to be developed further. And social enterprises can do this because government and private sector has been focusing on their own big agenda, like focusing on the whole nation, focusing on the whole market focus, becoming a market leader, and so on and so forth. And there are neglected areas like this that needs focus and needs tackling, and that social enterprises will be able to do that. Another example in Thailand is Lemon Farm. I think for those the Thailand participants from Rangsit University are familiar with this one, because this is one of the social enterprises that's quite present as well, or quite present as well in many places in Bangkok. let me give you an example of how this social enterprises has been operating or is operating. Next slide, please.
สวัสดีค่ะวันนี้น้องพ่ออยู่ที่ร้านเลมอนฟาร์มสาขาแจ้งวัฒนะค่ะปีนี้ครบรอบ24ปีเลมอนฟาร์มและพี่ๆเกษตรอินทรีย์อยากส่งมอบสุขภาพดีให้ทุกคนในครอบครัวผ่านผลผลิตอินทรีย์ที่ผ่านการดูแลและคัดสรรอย่างดีที่สุดค่ะ Season of Health รักใครให้ทานผักอินทรีย์เพิ่มภูมิต้านทานนะคะเดี๋ยวน้องพ่อยจะพาทุกคนมาทำความรู้จักผักสลัดกันนะคะมาที่ผักชนิดแรกเลยค่ะ Green Oak ใบหยักสีเขียวตลอดทั้งใบและก้านช่วยเสริมสร้างภูมิคุ้มกัน Red Oak จะมีลักษณะคล้าย Green Oak แต่จะมีสีแดงเข้มบริเวณขอบใบหยักๆช่วยกระตุ้นการขับถ่าย Baby Cos มีลักษณะก้านใบสั้นซ้อนกันเป็นชั้นๆช่วยป้องกันโรคที่เกี่ยวกับสายตาลดความเสื่อมของประสาทตาในผู้สูงอายุ Finlay Iceberg ใบเป็นฝอยหยิกคล้ายเกล็ดน้ำแข็งช่วยบำรุงสายตาผักกาดหอมขอบใบหยักละเอียดแบบฟันเลื่อยมีสารแลคทูคาเรียมซึ่งสารตัวนี้จะช่วยกระตุ้นให้เราเกิดความผ่อนคลายจิตใจสงบและนอนหลับได้ดีสลัดแก้วใบห่อเป็นหัวขอบใบหยักเป็นแผ่นคลื่นช่วยให้กระดูกแข็งแรงสำหรับใครคนไหนนะคะที่เป็นมือใหม่หัดทานก็อาจจะชอบผักที่มีรสชาติเบาๆไม่ฝืนไม่ขมมีรสชาติหวานเล็กน้อยข้อขอแนะนำเป็นสลัดแก้ว Baby Cos Finlay Iceberg Green Oak Red Oak ส่วนใครชอบผักรสเข้มๆนะคะต้องเป็นผักกาดหอมเลยค่ะเดี๋ยวเรามาดูทางด้านความกรอบนุ่มกันบ้างนะคะใครที่ชอบกินผักนุ่มๆเนี่ยต้องรับผักกาดหอมไปเลยค่ะส่วนใครที่ชอบกินผักกรอบๆนะคะก็จะเป็น Baby Cos Finlay Iceberg Green Oak Red Oak และผักสลัดแก้วค่ะเป็นยังไงกันบ้างคะกับผักสลัดอินทรีย์ที่พลอยแนะนำกันในวันนี้น่ากินกันทั้งนั้นเลยดูคลิปนี้จบอย่าลืมมาอุดหนุนผลผลิตของพี่ๆเกษตรกรที่เลมอนฟาร์มทุกสาขารักใครให้กินผักอินทรีย์เพิ่มภูมิต้านทานค่ะ
So it's been 24 years Lemon Farm has been operating and providing healthy food for families and for people in urban areas and also in rural areas. And this is an example of how social enterprise has been operating for some time and persistent in promoting and focusing on social and environmental issues that is useful for the society. They provide delicious, vegetables like that, and as you can see, that you can buy it from the supermarket, so you don't have to, be difficult to go to rural areas and things like that. So, this is something that is neglected. Health, well-being, and healthy food is something that is neglected because it's not in the big picture or in the focus, the main focus of the government and private sector. So social enterprises can also jump in and can also focus on this particular elements or particular area, if you will. Next slide, please. Now, the challenge, or we know that now social enterprises has been useful and has been good for the societies and for the people in Southeast Asia region, and we know that social enterprises is also good for the economy because in several studies that are conducted by British Council, you can see that social enterprises are contributing significantly to economy. In the Indonesia case, at least there are 2% contribution of social enterprise sector to the GDP of Indonesia. In other countries, there are also similar pattern on the growing and significant contribution of social enterprises in the GDP. Now, what hinders social entrepreneurship sector to further develop and flourish? What are the opportunities for social enterprises to develop? There are case studies that me and my colleagues from Malaysia are doing in order to understand this landscape, and we're using case study of Indonesia and Thailand. Let me show you the highlights of the research. But before that, let me take you to the landscape of social enterprises in Indonesia, in Thailand. While in Indonesia, the landscape has been done by the British Council. As you can see here, the landscape of social enterprises in Indonesia are quite diverse and quite animous, if you will, with some interesting highlights, like, you know, women becomes the leaders, the majority leaders in social enterprises in Indonesia, and local communities, young people are those people that run social enterprises in Indonesia. It means that those people are not in the mainstream. Those are not people in the majority of the economy and not in the government. So it means that social enterprises really taking up spaces that are neglected, spaces that are forgotten. And that's why social enterprises will become an important element in the economy of Indonesia, in the social elements or social issues of Indonesia. As you can see there, the top 3 sectors of social enterprises are creative industries, agriculture, fisheries, and education. Creative industries are actually the one that are important. In the future, it becomes more and more important for the economy. If you are familiar with the creative industry, it's not only art and not only craft, but also digital creative industry like music, like games are going to be important. Many of them are established as social enterprises or through social entrepreneurship. And I think the spaces and the landscape of social enterprises in the region becomes very, very relevant for the growth of the region. Next slide, please. Now, Angin, one of the research institution or one of the institution that focuses on investment and focuses on some research, has indicated that there are 52 must-know players in the Indonesian social entrepreneurship space, which shows that the ecosystem of social entrepreneurship in Indonesia is growing, because there's a lot of element, there's a lot of segment in Indonesia that starts to build social entrepreneurship ecosystem. So you've got impact investor, you've got venture capitalists, you've got startup organization, startup assistance organization, you've got private corporation, you've got universities, you've got media, you've got individual figures who are pursuing, who are pressing, who are pushing social enterprises to grow further in Indonesia. And this signifies that the Indonesian case shows that social entrepreneurship is growing and will be contributing significantly to the region as well if it's handled properly. Next slide, please. Now, one of the study that we did is to highlight the differences between a period in the Indonesian social entrepreneurship or social enterprises ecosystem. And what interesting is actually that Indonesian social enterprises actually dated back before the pre-independence, before the independence in 1945, which means that the practice of social enterprises has been around in Indonesia long time ago, before independence. And if you can see there in the diagram or in the table, the pre-independence actors tend to be multiform, which means that there are a lot of players, a lot of people, a lot of groups, a lot of business models that develop or that started social enterprises, and they are scattered. They tend to be connected between family and friends. And the reason why they developed social enterprises during the pre-independence is mostly because of necessity, because of the need to set up something, because Indonesia was colonized at the time, and there's a lot of issue, a lot of social and economic issue that are faced or that were faced by the community. So the community tend to be self-sufficient. There were no government intervention, there were no government support. And that actually becomes the characteristic of the social entrepreneurship ecosystem in Indonesia, where it tends to be bottom-up process. It tends to be developed by the community. It tends to be, how do you say that, organically growing from the society. They tend to be, in Indonesia, they tend to be less focused or less supported or less contributed or less government contribution in this. This is not to say that at the moment there is no government contribution. Today, the contribution in government contribution to social enterprises has been quite significant and quite large, if you will, quite spacious, if you will, because there are a lot of support that the government is starting to give. But in the past, there were no government support. You know, social enterprises developed through communities and become area where it only focused on a narrow, specific, isolated sector, if you will. So that becomes a characteristic of ecosystem in Indonesia. Next slide, please. Now, this is some suggestion on how to go forward, but you can take a look that many of the suggestion is to ask for further government support, for further government intervention, or for further government involvement in the ecosystem. Next slide, please. Well, in Thailand, it's quite different. It is quite contrasting to what happened in Indonesia, because there has been quite a number of government support in Thailand. There's a number of government involvement in the development of social enterprises. As you can see here, this is a report from British Council as well. The social entrepreneurship landscape in Thailand is, more or less similar to Indonesia. You can see there that most social enterprises focus on agriculture compared to Indonesia. Social enterprises in Indonesia tend to be focused on creative industries or creative economy, while in Thailand, social enterprises tend to focus on agriculture, fisheries and livestock, education and health. So the priority for social enterprises in Thailand seems to be focused on agriculture, while in Indonesia tend to be from the creative sector. Next slide, please. Well, in Thailand, as you can see here, based on my research and my colleague that was recently accepted in a book chapter, we can see that there are at least 3 periods of social entrepreneurship ecosystem or social entrepreneurship era or period, if you will, in Thailand. If you can see that there's a historical period which is started from the 70s to 90s, where social enterprises tend to be growing organically, but also receive some support from the government. In this case, from the monarchy, where you've got some entities like Meva Luang Foundation. This is many times triggered by the self-sufficiency economic philosophy, which is coined by the late King Bhumibol. And then the foundational period, which is from 2000 and 2010, is a period where we can see a lot of support from the government, particularly from the Prime Minister Abhisit at that time, because he was British born and connected to the UK, connected to the British Council, and learned a lot about how social enterprises was developed in the UK, and the government or the administration started to develop a lot of infrastructure, like legal structure, like Thai social enterprise office in Thailand, and the social enterprises landscape become more structured and become how do you say that, more regulated in a positive way, unlike in Indonesia where you can see a lot of social enterprises are scattered and they face identity issues because there is no legal status for social enterprises in Indonesia. So in this case, the role of government in Thailand has been better in providing a framework and a structure for social enterprises to operate in the region. And then the next period, which is the contemporary period, is where the government play a more active role in establishing the so-called Pracharatrak Samaki, which is basically the social enterprises consist of different actors, different stakeholders in the board, and operating in 76 provinces and one at the national level, and aiming to increase the income and the welfare of the people. So this is an example of where social enterprise has been strongly supported by the government. There are critics, of course. There are a lot of resistance as well, because many of the critics says that the government has been too involved in the social sector, and this has been a place where government and big businesses are how do you say that, co-opting the space. But we would tend to see that this is a good example of collaboration. This is a good example of participation, regardless of the critics and regardless of the many negative or many feedback to this process, and as well as negative outlook or negative opinions, if you will. But this is a very interesting way to see how collaboration or partnership can be developed. Why? Because social enterprises, at least looking back from the Indonesia example, social enterprises tend to be small and scattered, which means that the impact of the social enterprises, which means the outcome of the social enterprises, can be very limited and can be very sectoral. Thus, because of the sector being sectoral and being very specific, social enterprises needs to work together with other organizations, needs to work together with bigger organizations. And in this case, social enterprises needs to work together with the government, need to work together with big businesses in order to make sure that the impact is escalated and the impact is scaled up to different places and different levels. So it's not about, at least that's our conclusion, it's not about whether the government or the big businesses are involved in that, but it's about how do you measure the impact and how do you measure the outcome. And this is something that social enterprises in the region has not been very good in doing, impact measurement. So next slide, please. So the way forward to make sure that social enterprises and social entrepreneurship can tackle social issues in the region, we need to do at least 3 things. Next slide, please. First of all, we need to develop the theory of change. Every social enterprise, every social issues needs to develop theory of change. So if you are going to intervene, if you're going to change something in society, if you're going to provide impact or bringing impact to society through your activities, it can be campaigns, it can be social enterprise development, it can be business, it can be anything. You need to have a theory of change. Why is it important? Because theory of change will help you to stay on track and will help you to ensure that you be able to measure where you are at the moment, where you are at this point, whether you have achieved your objective or not, whether you are drifting to other objective, or you stay true to your nature and your objective. So first of all, theory of change is important. You need to develop a theory of change. You need to develop a proper business model that support this theory of change. The second one, next slide please, is to support the social enterprises in the region to measure their impact, which means that government, private sector, civil society sector, those who are doing research on impact measurement needs to be able or needs to support social enterprises to measure their impact. In other words, needs to measure the theory of change that they have developed. The second one is the ecosystem that enables social enterprises to develop theory of change. This means that governments need to come up with a framework for social enterprises to be able to develop theory of change appropriately and to do impact measurement. And last but not least, this is something that's very important and becomes something that me, my colleagues, and many people in the social entrepreneurship sector focuses on, is on the enabling collaboration and partnership. This is very important because this also addresses the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. Many SDGs are individually focused, like, you know, poverty and things like that. Those are important, and many people have been focusing on that. But enabling collaboration and partnership to support other SDGs, to complement other SDGs are important. And this is why the Thailand example becomes quite interesting, despite the critic. So next slide, please. So partnership for sustainable development is one of the things that we shouldn't forget, because this is important to achieve, you know, the other sustainable development goals. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. Because of the time, I have to leave it there. And if you have any question, you can put it in the chat box. You can contact me through email as well, or through IG. Thank you very much. Hope that helps.
Thank you, Pak Ari.
Okay, so now we will be waiting for the rest of us to return to the main room, as we will continue to the next session. So the next session we will be having a virtual lunch. Let's wait for the rest of us to return to the room. Okay, so let me explain a little bit about the virtual lunch. Okay, so for the virtual lunch, you will have to go back to your first breakout room with your groups, and you will have to explain what you have for lunch to your group mates. And also in the room, you will be meeting your coaches, and please exchange contacts with your group mates and plan for your next meeting. Okay. So it seems that the rest hasn't returned to the main room.
While we wait, what did everybody think about the parallel sessions? I hope everybody had a good time. Very interesting stuff that they talked about there.
Yes, you can share in the chat what you think about the session that you had.
And if you guys didn't have enough time to talk to your group mates in the first session, after this, in this current session, we're gonna have more time to, you know, discuss with them about your next task. can see some people in the chat saying that it was very interesting. It's very nice to hear that you guys enjoyed the parallel sessions.
Okay, so the breakout room is ready. You guys can go back and start planning on your video.
And yeah, have a good lunch. Make sure to come back for closing at 12:45. Currently, we are going to close the live stream for anybody that's still watching on BINUS TV or YouTube or anything. But for everybody on Zoom, please stay and join your respective breakout rooms because we still have activities that need to be done. See you guys there.
See you.